In this video, we're going to be talking about what's going to happen to home prices for the rest of 2022, 2023, and 2024. And some of the projections aren't that rosy.
Yeah, so first we're going to break that down on a national level, guys. And if you stick around until the end, we're going to talk about what's going on in our local market here in Southwest Florida.
Exactly. So let's just jump right in. Let's look at appreciation year over year. This comes from Case and Shiller. And via Case and Shiller, this is the year over year. What's year over year mean? Well, it means that we're looking at a month versus a month last year. So let's just say, hypothetically, it was August of this year versus August of last year. I think this is June numbers. It is the most recent. And as you can see, the numbers were double-digit growth.
Yes.
Right? That's no surprise there because numbers have jumped up significantly. But if you look at month-over-month numbers,
those don't look as sexy, right?
Yeah, month-over-month numbers are not as sexy. So you can actually see that some areas got a decline in price. So like Portland, San Diego, San Francisco, etc., went down in price. If you look at Tampa, they went up 2.2%, and then Miami went up 2.3%. What do we mean by month-over-month? Well, we're comparing this month, or August, the latest numbers, to July. So when you look at it on a very short window, you're going to see the numbers not being as sexy.
Right. So guys, take a look at Florida. So, the shift in supply has dropped demand somewhat, and there's a lot of factors involved in that, like inflation, interest rates, and a lot of other variables. But Florida has continued to increase in value because you have to remember that we're still the #1 most desirable state in the country that everyone is moving to.
Exactly. And we kind of covered this last month, but when you look at supply and demand, there's been 16.8% less showings and 26% more in active listings. And we also talked about how that's because listings are just staying on the market a lot longer, not necessarily new listings hitting the market. So if you want to know more about that, go look at our last week's video. But what's ahead for home prices coming up? Well, we can take a look at the top forecasters. This is the top 7 forecasters in the country, and if you look at all their numbers, it looks pretty promising. It looks like the home price appreciation is going to go up pretty significantly, and if you average all 7 of those, that comes out to 11.3% in appreciation, which is
substantial.
Yeah, that's not good news if you're a buyer and you're wanting to buy a home and you're not going to buy a home for the next year or so, But that's also a reason if you're a buyer probably not to stay on the fence, not to hesitate, So, however, there are some negative projections out there, and that's what we want to get to because you're probably hearing about those in the media. And this lady, Ivy Zellman, projects that home prices will fall 4% in 2023 and another 5% in 2024, right?
Right, and she gets a lot of press time, guys, so the media takes what she says and they put that out there as the truth about what's going on in the market. But on the next slide, we're going to show you when we compare that to the other top analyst, Ivy is the only one that projects that home prices are actually going to fall 3%.
And since she is a respected economist, let's keep her numbers in there and just take a look how that would affect home prices. Well, if you look at this slide and you average all 6 of these projections out, it still comes out to a 2.5% increase in 2023, which any home price appreciation in a market that's slowed down so much, I think is pretty positive news. Let's talk about real estate as an investment. This is how Lona and I like to look at real estate when we're advising people. We don't believe that in majority of cases that real estate is a short-term investment. It's more or less a long-term investment, especially if you're moving down here and plan on retiring here in Florida, right?
Right.
It's going to be several years that you'll probably own a property. Well, let's look at the window, like how real estate has performed since 1991, Q1 of 1991. And you can see that the national average in appreciation was 290.2%. Let's look at Florida. What was Florida?
Florida was 422.5%.
And home value increases. So, if you're going to buy real estate and you're going to own it the typical 5 to 7 years, you're going to have dips in there probably at some point, But if you time it out and you buy a home correctly and you live there for a little while, chances are you're going to get pretty good appreciation out of it.
But when we're looking at this data over 30 years, guys, we don't think that the projections over the next 30 years are going to change a whole lot. So if you are on the fence about buying, look at this and, reach out to us. We can help you make an educated decision.
Exactly. And so if you look at this quote from Bill McBride, another important economist, he said there's 3 reasons why home prices probably won't drop. And what's the number one reason?
The number one reason is solid underwriting. So guys, we've said this in our previous videos. It takes a lot more to get a loan today. You have to put up the paperwork for the income. You have to show that you're a solid borrower. It's harder to get a mortgage now. So with that solid underwriting in place, that's going to make a big difference.
Exactly. Reason number 2 is prices tend to be sticky downwards when there aren't forced sales, meaning when there's not as many foreclosures and things like that, prices tend to be a little bit sticky.
Which brings us back to point number 1, right?
Yeah.
With the solid underwriting in place, hopefully we're less likely to see more forced sales, foreclosures, short sales, things like that, because it is harder to get a mortgage and get in a home.
And just so you all know, we probably will see a little bit of a foreclosure wave because they have had the freeze on foreclosures for several years, but we need that inventory, as we will talk about here in a little bit in the future. So that leads us to this quote. U.S. households own $41 trillion in owner-occupied real estate, just over $12 trillion in debt, and the remaining $29 trillion in equity. The national loan-to-value in Q2 2022 was 29.5%, which is the lowest since 1983. So homeowners had an average of $320,000 in inflation-adjusted equity in their homes in Q2 2022, an all-time high. So they have more equity, even though all this record inflation has been happening, right?
Yeah.
So again, that's pretty positive news. Now, what's happening here locally? What happened to prices? Well, if we did the short-term window like the media likes to do, you can see that home prices went from $424,000 in July from a median price to $425,000. So they actually went up a little bit.
That's from July to August of this year.
Exactly. And what happened to months of supply? How many homes were on the market? And we look at this to gauge buyer demand, and you can see that actually the months of supply went down from 2.4 months in July to 2.3 months in August. Now, that's not significant. I wouldn't brag about it, not where it needs to be, because we want to see a lot more listings come on the market, but we're not seeing that yet. It's still a seller's market.
That's right. And we have to remember, guys, Florida is the number 1 state that's in demand, that everybody wants to move to or is moving to. So we may not have as much supply as some of the other states because we're in such high demand still.
Yes. So hopefully you got a lot from this video, and if you did, please share this video with someone else who you think would also get a lot from this video, and please like and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon if you want to get notified whenever we put out new information about our market. I'm Doug Lugers.
I'm Lona Lugers.
Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next week.
But thanks for watching.